Hello, Infiniteers, and happy Friday. It's time for our next episode of Toy Box Classics. And today, we're going to finish the build exercise for the MU campus in our Monstrous Pranks toy box. Last time, we added the terrain and all of the buildings, and we began creating some of the platforming areas in the toy box, as you can see. And we're going to pick up where we left off and finish building the remaining areas of interest. And we're going to start here next to this building, which is on the other side of the lava pit, which we constructed last time. And we're going to drop down a little spacer block here, right on that terrain seam, right in line with the edge of that building. And let me pull up my screen grab here. All right, so what we're going to put in here is the lava pit with the platforms and the swinging pendulums. And we're going to encase this area in a hedge. So underneath Building Sets Group 1, we'll grab the hedge. And to be consistent, we'll put the shadow side on the far side. We're going to be putting a platform here, so we'll put this curved edge there. And you'll notice we're right on the terrain seam here, which is nice because that's going to cover that up so we don't see it. Okay, so that's where the hedge is going to go. And before we build too much more of the hedge, let's pick up this lava piece over here and put that back. We're going to go to the next size smaller. We're going to come over here and line this up with the hedge piece there. We're going to drop down 4 of these like that. And then we're going to come over here and line up with the edge of that lava piece, and we're going to go left 2 nudges, or 1 terrain cube. We'll drop down 2 more. And then we're going to come up here and do the same thing, another 2 nudges, like that. And then we're going to line up with this piece back here and drop 1 last one out there. Okay, so there is our lava field. And now we'll enclose this in hedges. And, oops, this one goes, let's see, make sure I get the shadow lined up. Okay, it's on the left. I like things to be consistent, so that's what we're going to do here. And then this piece sits in there like that. Drop another piece out here. And another piece there. Okay? And then we're going to scoot across and drop 1 more right on the edge of this terrain seam. 1 nudge left of that. We'll put that there. Drop down 2 hedges. Okay? So that's what we have there. And then on the other side of the lava, lined up with that lava block, we're basically going to do the same thing. And let me just spin this around so it matches the screen grab that I'm building off of on my iPad. Alright, and then we'll plug the gaps with this little edge corner. And just like that. Okay, so there is the lava field. And then on the end of this, we're going to drop down a terrain block. Again, this is styled with the Metroville theme. And let's see, I have it spun around that way, looking at the texture on the top. Okay. And then I'm going to pick this piece up. Go ahead and bring this on up here We'll drop that in the corner, come out, and this will be the location of our first block. And for the style on these, we're going to use, if you come over to the right, the three styles we're using are all kind of close to each other. We're going to use the monster theme. I'll set that to be my theme. Okay. And we'll delete this little spacer block here behind it. Okay, and then we're going to come out on the end, go 1, 2 nudges over, so basically leave a cube in between those two, and then move over 2 nudges to the left. That's where the first one will go. Okay, and then do the same thing, come out, leave 1 cube in between, this time go 1 nudge to the left, and then leave a cube in between, drop another one right there, and then leave a cube in between, drop 1 here, again cube in between, go over to the left or to the right 1 nudge, go to the left 1 cube, like so, and then leave a cube in between and a cube in between. So there are the platforms now to get through that area. And then we're going to drop a couple of pendulums down here, and you find those up under the platforming toys. If we go over to the right, you'll find that pendulum. We're going to drop the first one right centered on top of those 2 blocks, just like you see there. And we're going to set the style on this now, because we don't want it to look identical to the blocks underneath. We'll make this a little darker. We'll use the Groot theme. And then we're going to center another one over top of these 2 blocks. And when you load the toy box, both of these will load in at the same time. So since one, you don't want them swinging the same direction at the same time, we'll flip this around. And so when you load up the toy box, it'll work like that. And they'll be swinging in opposite directions. Okay, so there is the lava maze. Now, let's grab this little block here, pick that up, and we're going to go to this long block, and we're going to come over here, oops, drop that down, and I want to place this first one right in line with this hedge. And I think we're 1 space away. Is that correct? No. So a cube and a half away. Such that we have 2 cubes like that. And for this, we want to change the theme. We'll use the Randy theme again, which was what we used for our first set of platforms. Over there. All right, so that will sit in there like that. We'll put those in there like that. And then we're going to build another one down over here, and this one I want to put a spacer cube here. Lined up with the one over there. The left edge lined up like you see there. All right. take that little spacer back out. And there we have two little framed in areas for lava. Once again, we'll pick up this lava piece. We'll drop that right in the middle. In the original toy box, this used a different theme, but they didn't have a lot of themes in 1.0, so I like to use the monster-related themes that we have in 3.0, so I think that looks a little bit more appropriate. Okay, so we have those, and the original game left this side open. I'm not quite sure why, but since they did, we will. So that's what we have there. Okay. Now back over here on the back edge of this building, there was a platform that the player rode out to get one of the scrolls. So we'll go back up to platforming toys, and we'll use this, the horizontal mover. I'm going to line it up with the center of that building, get as close as I can to it, and that's where that will go. For the clock tower, we're going to use this drainage pipe out of Building Sets Group 2. It's the large climbing pipe. Put that right up next to the corner of the clock tower, and then start building upward. And that goes too high, so we'll use that one instead. And then for the platform, we'll put that right underneath the edge of the window there. That gives the player a way to get up on the clock tower. And is that too high? It may not be high enough. We'll go ahead and use that one. I think that's what I had used originally. I was just looking at it and thinking that's too high. All right. Behind here, we had the paintball arena, and I think I'm going to wait and put that in offline, because that's made up of strictly decorations. And rather than watch me meticulously place all of those barriers, I'll just show you the end result, which is really what you need. Now, between these two buildings, we had those columns with the smashers. So once again, go back up to the platforming toys, and let's go ahead and put that little platforming section in. We're going to put that as close as we can get to the building, kind of centered on that risen platform over there. And then we're going to center this on that platform, centered on the seam between those two bushes, like that. And then back down to the basic blocks, and we want to look for the column, which is that one. And I believe we're going to go one block over to the left. Let me find my screen grab to double check that. Yes. And then we're basically going to do one cube between those. Like that. And then back up to platforming toys. We want to grab the smasher. And we're going to place one on top of that block. One on top of that block. And there we go. That's that little platforming area. Okay, we had some more little toys down here forming a maze. Again, those are all decorations. I'm going to do that offline. We also had some hedges out here in front of the main building. I'm going to do that offline as well. I'll explain why a little bit later. Back here, we had the Briar maze. And once again, I think I'll do that offline too. It's just going to be a lot easier to do that. So I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go offline and put in all of the trees and decorations, the decorations that make up the Briar maze and the paintball arena, and finish putting the hedge around the perimeter of the toy box. Again, you don't really need to watch me meticulously placing all of these objects. You just need to see the end result. So I'm going to go offline and finish the build, and then I'll come back and give you a quick tour. Okay, I am done, and as you can see, this toy box looks a lot different now. But don't be overwhelmed by that, because I'm going to give you a quick flyover tour so that you can see exactly which pieces that I've used and where I have put them. And I'll try to give you a good look at everything so that if you're building this toy box on your own system, you can see exactly what I've done, okay? And feel free to pause this video along the way and copy what I've done. The first thing you're going to notice is that I created the rest of the hedge all the way around the perimeter of the toy box. And basically, I'm using these thicker hedge pieces that we started with, and I have run them all the way down the end of the toy box, okay? And these come all the way to the edge of the terrain, with the last piece lining up like that. And then we placed a row of these all the way down this side, but this time it doesn't go all the way to the end. It comes up a little bit short, so we have a little bit of terrain hanging off the edge there, and that's fine. And then we ran these all the way down to the end over here. And then all the way over that way. And I just realized these should all be turned around with the dark side facing that way. So I want to make sure you correct that, and I'll do that offline later. Okay, and then we placed in all of these little trees, and you'll have to take this piece out to do this. I put this back just so it's still there, but you have to put that in after you put the tree in. But once we're done, you can take those things out. I put it back in just so you can see how this lines up with everything, but this tree is out of the plants drawer. It's the large monster tree, and I'm pretty much using the monster plants, the tall monster tree, the monster tree, and some of the shrubs here to the left. Okay? So we have a couple of these trees back over here. Again, you have to take this out in order to put that tree in. I put a couple of these small orange bat-winged pest bushes on either side of the stairs. Over here, if you drop this little spacer block off the end of the hiss house, like you see there, that's where this hedge lines up. And there's 3 of these styled with the ivy style, and then 2 over this way. That's where those get placed. A couple of more of these plants here. And then here we have the pipe drain, the same one we used to climb the clock tower. That's sitting here like this. And then out of the sports toys, I placed the ESPN basketball hoop. The monster tree sits in here like this, and again I put these in after the fact so you can see how this all relates, but you don't need these. Again, when we're done at the end of this video, you can take all of these out. But I wanted you to see where these things are placed in relation to these. And then I had a couple more of those orange bushes there with a couple of party cannons. And you'll see there's logic connections there. We'll talk about that next time. All right, a couple of trees. And then we have some hedges off of the end of those stairs. These are out of the blocks drawer, again, styled with the ivy theme. And then we have the splash pool out of gameplay toys. The ring of fire is out of the racing toys. And we place some party cannons here, kind of in a ring around the pool. In front of that, we have some decorations. So I've got this gargoyle 1 and a gargoyle 2 on either side of the ring of fire. A couple of park benches. This is out of the decorations drawer. It's with the monster toys. And another bench over here, and another of those orange trees. And these trees are spaced like this. Now you'll have to put the trees in first before you put these hedges in, because you see they overlap. But that one sits in there like that. Then we've got one of those, and one of those, and one of those. You can look at the bounding box. You can look at the terrain on the ground and just kind of see where I've placed those. And then once those trees are in, you can place some more of those blocks styled with ivy, like that. And then in here we have these bushes set up like that. Another little park bench. Another tree. The position of these is kind of important, so pay attention to where the trunk of the tree sits on the ground and the orientation of the tree. Because when we put the prank toys in here, the player is going to go up between these trees. You don't want them hitting the trees. But you can always adjust these later if you don't get it quite right. The start pad we moved up here. So the back end of this is right in line with that hedge. And it's lined up with the terrain texture like you see there. And then we've got some other trees around here. And I stuck one of those in there. Again, you can't do that with those blocks there, so you'll have to take the blocks out. On the back side of this building, we have these trees positioned here like you see. And again, the placement of these is important. So note where the trunk of the tree is on the ground. Because if they're not positioned properly, then when we put the prank toys in here, the player will run into the trees. These are out of the decorations drawer. This is the long barricade. And this is the short barricade. A little pink tree there. And you can see how that's lined up on the texture. Up against the bush. And with respect to the corner of that building. Now the placement of these trees doesn't really matter, because they aren't going to interfere with anything that the player is doing. Another orange tree, a couple of bushes, or a couple of benches, and this is out of the decorations drawer. Monsters University light post. And got our hedge there. Placed a couple of party cannons up here. These are out of gameplay toys. You might have to move that block in order to put that tree in, or you can just move the tree over if you want. The position of that doesn't really matter. And then we got kind of a little park down over here. Okay. Some trees back here, and the placement of these doesn't matter because there's no prank toys back here. So you can add some more trees if you want. You can space these out a little more. If you want to add in something else to do back here, if you got your own idea, this corner is a good corner to do that. And then we got a couple of trees along here. A couple of those lanterns, the light posts. One there, one over there, and a tree. And a couple of trees along here. A couple of party cannons up on top of this block. A couple more trees here. With a couple of party cannons and this little springy mattress thing. Couch cushion, which is out of the platforming toys. Okay, over here we have a couple more light posts. Some trees. Some trees back here. And a tree there. And then we get into the paintball maze. And again, this is two of the long barricades with a gap and two more long barricades lined up with the edge of that building there. And then along this side of the edge of the building, some more long barricades. And you have to put this tree in first, I think, before you can put these little barricades in. And then inside here, we just have some more of these little barriers and barrels. These little barricade pieces inside here. These are all out of the decorations drawer. So you can see which ones I used and where I placed them. The exact placement of these doesn't really matter. The idea is if you're coming in through here, you want some places for the monsters to kind of be hiding behind. And same if you come in through there. And if you come off the roof like I did in the playthrough video, we've got a couple of barriers going this way that monsters can hide behind. All right, around the columns, we have a few more trees. The exact placement of these doesn't really matter. As long as they're not colliding with the platforming toys, that's fine. Now the placement of these kind of does matter, because we've put in some of these other pieces. So starting with that little block there, we have some picket fence pieces out of the decorations drawer, and I've run a length of 3, 4, 5, 6 of those down here with an orange bush on the end. And then we have 2 in here with a little short piece of short barricade and 2 electrical boxes. We're going to put one of the prank toys right between those to kind of disguise it a little bit. 2 large barricades, a bench on that side with an orange bush, Then a couple of short barricades here. This is a little different than what you saw in the original video in Toy Box TV. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the prank toys, but the prank toys work a little bit differently in 3.0 than they did in 1.0, so I had to change this up a little bit to get things to work right. And then we got a couple of trees there. Okay, and that's everything over that way. Back here, this is kind of empty. I should have put a few trees in there, I guess, but I didn't really have a lot to do for the player back here. So it's another place where you can add your own ideas if you want. Okay. And then this one is the purple bat-winged pest bush. And then along here, to kind of break up that terrain seam, we've placed some wide grass terrain blend styled with the Metroville style that we're using for our grass. That just kind of softens that edge up a little bit. Here we have one of the small monster trees. And then these are out of the Building Sets Group 1, or the Briar Hedge Maze toppers, with the corners like that. And the first wall is lined up with the windows there on the building, like you see, with the topper on top. This is just the Briar Hedge wall block with the archway, another block, and then the tall block with some toppers in front. The next little set of hedges is lined up with that archway there on the building. It is one cube away from that wall, and there's one cube in between those. Again, that's a topper on top of the long briar hedge block. And then we run a couple of these down with toppers on top, leave a space for 2 cubes, and put another one of those in. These are lined up with the building there, like you see, or with the seam between these blocks if you prefer. A cube and a half apart, and a cube and a half apart. And this block basically just runs all the way down. Like you see there, with toppers on top and along the sides here, and then a circle of these pieces here with the edging along the side. And then I placed another one of these moving platforms up here. It's about a half a cube away from the edge of that building and lined up with the height of that ledge and styled with the Randy theme. Okay, and then I think that's just about everything. There's a couple things inside this hedge maze. This piece here, it's the purple bat-winged pest bush, and notice how I have rotated that and placed it so that it's kind of sticking out a little ways. And this is going to disguise one of the prank toys so that when you walk in here you don't see it, and it'll smack you this direction. Then we've got a couple more of those trees and one of those trees. And with that, the build exercise for this toy box is done. Next time, I will show you how to place all of the prank toys, and we will hook up the little bit of logic that we need for the firework cannons and the enemy wave generators. Well, that's all for me today. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying this series and these videos, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Have a great weekend.